Good afternoon, all you Wired Differently people. This is Todd Saylor here, your Wired Differently guy. I wanted to talk to you today and teach you a little bit about something regarding being different, being wired different. Clearly, we know I've wrote a book about being wired differently, but I also wanted to teach you a little bit about what Wired Differently is and what it's about. So I thought I'd take this opportunity to talk to you today about the two types of business models there really are in this wired differentiality way. There's two really types of lanes or business types that you can look into when you're becoming a budding entrepreneur. Entrepreneur is really what I am. There's two types of people. There's entrepreneurs and there's business people. But there's two types of business models that you can embark on as an entrepreneur. The two types of business models are the monopoly route, or there is what we call the perfectly competitive route. The two types of business models you can follow as an entrepreneur are the monopoly route or the perfectly competitive route. So I want to talk to you about, actually at the end here, a third model that's different, right? Different. You're different, I'm different, that's an adjective. But we do things differently, that's an adverb. The adverb modifies the adjective, making it actionable. Remember that, we're different, we do things differently. Two types of business route you can go. The first route is monopolistic, the second route is perfectly competitive. Now, when you're going into business, a lot of us have ideas, and I want you to figure out which one of these two you're going to be before I introduce the third route. But most of us are going to fall into what we call perfectly competitive. The perfectly competitive route is something that everybody's already probably doing. Maybe becoming more horizontal in something, more of something that's working. You want to invent a car? Go ahead and invent a car. There's lots of cars out there. You're going to be perfectly competing with a lot of cars, right? You want to invent a donut. Tom's Donuts, the very best donuts. You're perfectly competing with a lot of donuts, right? Lots of donut shops. You got Dunkin', you got Hortons, you got Krispy Kreme. That's nothing, you're not creating anything relatively new. So I'm wearing this shirt to make sure you understand the example I'm trying to set here is of something that I've actually done. Tom's Donuts, perfectly competitive. If you want to become a monopoly type company, invent something on the internet, create something the world's never seen, and become vertical is really where everybody would like to be. You control the market, you do the things that you need to do, you set your price, you're that person. So what we got two types of models. We've got perfectly competitive and we got monopoly, perfectly monopoly. But what I really want to talk to you about is differentiality. I really want to talk to you about what it's like to be wired differently and how you can think wired differently and still stick within one of these lanes that's reasonable. Most of us are going to fall into the perfectly competitive lane. So let's talk about that. Donuts, perfectly competitive. Everybody makes a chocolate donut. Everybody makes a white ice long john. Everybody makes a custard. Everybody makes a cream filled. Everybody makes them hot and fresh at some point or time. Everybody has good service at some time. But guess what? Let's use donuts as an example. I've made it work. Let's create a perfectly competitive organization, but let's create a third model. Let's call it the monolithic model. We're going to thread the needle. We're going to go right between perfectly competitive and we're going to go right in between perfectly monopolistic, and we're going to become perfectly monolithic. We're going to find one product in our bandwidth of perfectly competitive and make it new, fresh, like somebody's never seen before. A certain flavor of potato flour donut that's got a certain type of drizzle and concoction of layering that nobody's ever seen before. Perfectly monolithic. Three types: perfectly competitive, perfectly monopolistic, and yours, perfectly monolithic. Find your differentiality. Be that wired differently entrepreneur. Have a great day, and I'll see you soon. Todd Saylor, wireddifferently.com.